good question from Kelly.
Here we go.
Really good question from Kelly. Do you think some people who've experienced trauma have fatigue, may not identify they've had trauma, and so may not attend classes? So, to be honest, Kelly, I personally think, and actually Annetta, who I mentioned, Idchit, wrote a question up on a Facebook group about this. If I'm teaching a general class, I actually almost presume that everybody has some kind of trauma, particularly through the pandemic. So I now teach general classes in a way that's trauma informed. So I don't necessarily say to my group, this is trauma informed, but I'm offering choice all the time. For example, I'm not saying you've got to have your eyes closed or you've got to do this. So I'm always trying to get people to feel safer and encouraging their own agency, encouraging co-regulation. So I'm not necessarily using a trauma word with my students, but I think more and more it's something that teachers should be aware of. But I'm not going to label people, because some people, so I'm just looking at your question again. Yeah, I don't think we have to label people or mention the trauma word. It's just that we as teachers, it's really helpful for us to know that we are teaching in a way that is trauma informed. Jade said, how is the training different from the book? I wrote the book and it was published at the end of 2020. And as Julie has said, we've been learning as we go over the last 3 years. So it is quite different from the book, because I would say I'm teaching in a way that's much more gentle and more trauma informed, which is one of the reasons I'm writing a new book. But I think when you do a training is always a little bit different from a way something's written. And, I'm evolving as a teacher all the time. So there's good stuff in the book because it goes into a lot of detail, particularly about yoga therapy and a bit of philosophy. But some of the practices are different. So I hope that answers that one.
Yeah, there's also the book's written by yourself, and the training is Sarah Ryan. There's Nadine's part of it as well, and Annetta. And also there's clinical research papers that are part of the training as well, and all of the clinical research papers relate to long COVID. So none of the long COVID content relate. Even though the practices in the book are very, very relevant for a long COVID community, that content is probably going to be in the new book and is in the current training. Also, somebody asked about, will there be more than one start date? At the moment, the start date that we have, which is the 13th of March, will be the start date. But for example, if you can't, if that is a time where you can't start, as it were, and you want to kind of start later, then what you can do is you can sign up for the training. That those trainings will begin to be released from the 13th of March. But as and when you start to access the material and start to ask the questions, the time period that Fiona and Sarah are available to answer questions is the entire 9-week time period. So for instance, if you begin to access the training at the beginning of April and you start asking your questions there, then they will be available for that. What has happened in the past is that they've been available beyond that 9-week period. But what we're not doing is guaranteeing that. So within the 9-week period, we are guaranteeing that the questions that you are going to be asking will be responded to. Outside of that 9-week period, the material will be available still, but the live, the aspect of Fiona being there where you go, I've got this question and she'll directly answer it, won't be there after that 9-week period. So I hope that's useful.
I probably will answer it.
I know. Yeah, but with all previous trainings, all questions have been answered well after the training, but it's not fair for me to have that expectation of Fiona as a constantly forever thing. And also if you do the training and you do that alongside being part of Fiona's Facebook groups, and ask questions within that, then there's the added experience of all those other people who are people who experience fatigue, especially if you join the teachers one, which is a very different experience to joining one which is for her clients. Let me have a look at other
questions. I'm finished, but there is, somebody's just asked Julia, might there be a course in the autumn, or is it better to sign up now? That's up to you. What do you
I think it's better to sign up now, because if you want to wait to do the training, then if you sign up now, and if there are financial issues, then we offer payment plans and all sorts of options. Then you've got the access. And then if we did run it again later, you would be welcome to, you know, if you've attended if you've booked the exact same course before and you wanted to join that cohort for the question asking aspect of it, you'd be welcome to do so. But what Fiona said is her availability is from March, and it would be a discussion that we would need to have as and when we might be doing this again in the future. Okay, any other questions? Oh, how much is the training? The training is $295, and that's for a lifetime availability. I think it's an absolute bargain. There is a huge amount of amazing content in there, and 2 highly experienced yoga teachers, and a couple of people who've come along to give their experience. So we've got the trauma-informed Annetta, and we've also got a couple of people who are also fatigue experiencers, and one's a fatigue expert, who have got experience of either chronic fatigue or long COVID.
Oh, you're talking about the workshops, yeah, Nadine.
Yes, because that's now added content to the training.
I'd just like to, before we close, just say about the price that Julia has often pushed me to make it much more, because in line with other trainings, it would probably be double that. But I've always fought her on this, simply because I know a lot of people who come to me have fatigue themselves and are on benefits or are not able to work full time. So that has always been my idea of keeping prices down so that it is available for people who need it.
And it's very much appreciated. So we're going to close the session now, and thank you so much to those of you who've joined us live.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, it makes a massive difference. There's a different energy when people come along live. We know that there are many of you who have signed up and are expecting the recording, and there may be more of you who have joined us on Facebook. And if you've joined us on Facebook and have questions, then do continue to ask questions in the Facebook group. You can always contact me, info@yogateachersforum.org. That comes directly to me. So if you have any other questions about the training or any other trainings that we do, then please do ask. Also, just so that you're aware, we have a number of free mini trainings coming up in the next few weeks. We've got the next one that's going to be starting is with Jenny Stone, and that is looking at yoga for cancer. And then we've got Nadia Rafat, and she's going to be looking at accommodating pregnancy and postnatal students in a general class. So those are 2 little freebies that we've got coming up that might be of interest to you. Thank you so much for your time, Fiona. I am going to sign off from Facebook. Stop. And I'm going to stop the recording.